Hello and welcome to Analysts Gone Wild. We are on what episode here, Sam? Like 30,000?
30,000. You are the
30,000,
only
yeah.
one who can keep count, and you are doing a very good job here.
We got a great group here. I'm Robert Kramer, more insights and strategy. I focus on ERP, SEM, data, and we got a great crew here. We're going to analyze some stories here. Why don't we all introduce ourselves? Start with Brian. What do we got today, Brian? Where are you at? And tell us a little bit about how it's going.
Hi, Robert. Yeah, it's going great. Thank you. It's rainy here in Toronto, but I'm inside, so that's okay. I've been with Infotech Research Group for 6 years, leading our tech trends and CIO priorities practice. Have appeared on Analysts Gone Wild several times now. Always happy to join the crew here.
Great. Over to you, Michael.
Sure. Thanks. Michael Fawcett, CEO and chief analyst at Arion Research. I formed this company about 4 years ago. We mostly focus on the intersection of AI and CX, particularly agentic AI. And a little plug, we have a book coming out over the next 2 weeks, Building the Digital Workforce. So
Oh, cool.
check it out.
Okay, we'll check it out. Well, maybe we can talk about that during the show and see if it's what the readers think. Sam, what about what's going on with you in Toronto today?
Yeah,
Blue
and
Jays
Michael,
doing?
we'll talk about Blue Jays, but we want to talk about the book first. And I thought that we were doing the whole ceremony whenever you have that out, Michael. So we should do that.
Yeah.
for our
That'd be
audience.
great.
It's too much excitement, man. I mean, see, you have been telling that for last 2 weeks, and
A lot of work.
they don't even see the book. Then it's kind of surprise for them.
It'd be kind of fun to.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a
first of all,
teaser.
you need to
It's a
send us the
teaser.
copy, so we need to take a look at it and see. If
I
we-
will.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys evaluation copies of it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and it's always good to have a buddy from Toronto because I'm not the only one who's facing rainy weather right now. So thank you, Brian, for sharing that. And obviously, we can talk about Blue Jays as well. But a little bit about me, Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is primarily buy-side advisory firm focusing on enterprise software. I'm also host of WS Rocks. Over to you, Robert.
Great. Well, let's jump into our first story. I think we got some really good stories today, and we're kind of hitting a little bit on ERP, which is something that a few of us I know like. But talk about Advantive. They acquire PINPoint. So PINPoint. Let's talk about Advantive. They're a mid-market ERP, and they focus. You always can correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, but distribution and manufacturing, and they do not have an MES solution currently that is as good as PINPoint's, which they're acquiring, which could help with the shop floor control and quality control. If we talk a little bit about MES, it's that middle layer between ERP and that shop floor. This really is a benefit to the customers for production. We always talk about hyper reality. This isn't really hype. This is a reality because it's a really a necessity. And it's a challenge, though, to integrate this type of technology into ERP. And they do have some strong competitors, but we can talk about that. So what do we all think and thoughts? I think it's a good move, obviously.
Yeah, I can start a little bit if you guys want. So Advantive, I think we have covered them a couple of times. They are literally the brand new ERP vendor. I think they are created probably somewhere around 2022. And this is a classic, software consolidation strategy. Brian, you might know Constellation Software. I don't know if you cover them, but they are from Toronto. Toronto has a lot of money, and these guys are creating software companies left and right. Advantive, I don't believe they are from Toronto, at least from the investor perspective. But these guys are trying very similar strategy as you're in for. Epicor was always developer, and they had acquired several different software systems. Their strategy was, hey, I'm going to acquire a bunch of manufacturing janitorial focused ERP systems. And then they also have the SPS flavor, which is a category in itself. I guess they have done a bunch of acquisitions there. They have QMS. Obviously, MES is definitely aligned with their strategy. So I would not say if this is their first MES acquisition. I think they are going to acquire a lot of them, Robert. And sometimes the MES could be very product focused, as you are going to have your CAD PLM, just because the product matters. The kind
By
of
industry too.
Exactly. The kind of nesting that you are going to have in your HVAC industry is going to be very different from your, I don't know, electronics industry. So that's why you are going to have sort of the dedicated MES for all of those verticals. So that's why you will have a lot more MES systems in these companies' portfolio. But when you talk about ERP, sometimes ERP processes need to be different as well. So that's why they will acquire a lot more ERP systems, a lot more MES systems. And sometimes it's all branded under one marketing. And that's where my problem is because these are, distinctly different products. So this acquisition is very similar to like QAD, what they have done for Red Zone, which is sort of unique direction because you have the MES flavor. You also have the workflow management flavor in that. So again, it's very interesting the way Advantive is moving. And my take on the story is going to be that Advantive is probably going to be one of the most promising vendors, from the ERP perspective.
Okay. Gentlemen,
I mean, I think it is interesting from a data perspective. And I've covered ERP in the past, but definitely not my primary focus now. But as I read this, we know there are a lot of really good use cases for AI in manufacturing, and without quality data, good data, complete data, it doesn't work. So I think that from that perspective, this seemed like a really interesting and useful acquisition for them to really get more data and, cleaner data. And then also the no code piece is the current trend, certainly in, enabling citizen developers, I guess we call that. So interesting.
Yeah, always got to appreciate when an American firm recognizes Canadian excellence and comes to acquire our companies here. This Advantive, I was just Googling, based in Tampa Bay, or Tampa, Florida, as it is now.
Yeah.
So, from a strategic point of view, I can see why they want to make this acquisition. If you look at the language they're using here in the press release, talking about the pressures on manufacturers, the need to have real-time data to pivot quickly and to understand where they're going to get their source materials from, and be able to execute on their supply chains, right? Look, we know what they're talking about here. They're talking about tariffs, right? In this uncertain global environment, where tariffs seem to shift from one location to the next, and no one's sure what it's going to look like 6 months from now. 95% of business executives say that tariffs have disrupted their sourcing strategies, right? So how are you able to respond to that? You need to build a resilient supply chain, and to have resilient supply chain, you need to be able to change things on a dime, go to a new manufacturing location, go to a new supplier in a different region. You're trying to avoid tariffs. You're trying to get more assurance of reliability. And without data, you're just trying to operate in the dark.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is definitely a plus. I mean, I don't see any negatives. Sam, the only thing that you mentioned is that there's other MESs. So I think that they have to delineate maybe those features to their customers, but maybe they're putting it all together into one MES for their customers. They're taking features from different ones. Do you have anything to add about that, or what do you think?
Yeah, so this is more of the portfolio or bag strategy, I would say. So they are trying to create different bundles of these different products targeted for specific industries, and that's why they have multiple ERP systems, multiple MES systems, and wherever they are going to make sense, they are simply going to create those kits and going to commercialize under one brand. So that's the overarching strategy, I would say. One comment that I wanted to respond to from Brian's perspective. So MES as a category or as a system has very little relevance to the supply chain, even though a lot of people might argue. And in this press release, you might see that, they are all talking about supply chain. Everybody does. Whenever anybody wants to talk about any sort of enterprise system, you have to throw in supply chain, right? How can you not do that? But as such, I mean, this is really very shop floor operations centric. So again, supply chain does not have as much correlation, I would say. It has to go through other categories, but again, this is all marketing, so you can talk about whatever you want.
Right. Brian, what do you think before we close this out to go to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, it's good feedback, Sam. Like, I'm not that familiar, admittedly, with like the software stack of manufacturing departments. So you're
Yeah.
saying like these manufacturing execution systems, they're used more internally than for like how to optimize operations at the plant location,
Mhm.
rather than like where you're going to source your different where you're going to do your manufacturing, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, there could be cases where MAS has been overutilized,
Mhm.
and they might be doing a little bit of supply chain inside that. But for the most part, the responsibility of MES layer, the way MES works is it's supposed to be mainly for the real-time interaction with the machines, hardware integration. That's where ERP systems sort of draw the line. So ERP systems might be able to print some sort of plan job orders that, okay, this is what you need to do from the job floor perspective. Sometimes some ERP systems might have an add-on where you can clock in your time and material, but if you look at the workflow of a production manager, they have to do a lot more. So sometimes MES systems do, let's say, the integration with the machines, but they might have the quality workflows integrated with that as well. But then you can't do procurement in that, right? Then you have to go to ERP. So you are kind of all over the place with respect to your architecture. So the goal of MES system is really to do the shop floor responsibility, to be able to interact with machines. And sometimes you might have the cross plant view inside the MES, and they call control tower for MES. You could have that, but again, this is not supposed to be a corporate view.
Well, it also ties into IoT a little bit more too. You're getting that data from all the
Yeah.
different areas. And the goal is to populate these ERPs with as much data as possible so then they're able to execute efficiently and have all the information. I mean, a lot of ERPs, when they're notorious for not having all the information and they're making decisions, but there's all this other information that's left out. And I think that that's a big deal. And that's what we talk a little bit, Sam, about the new next generation of ERP, getting all this information into one system from an architecture standpoint, then all the other systems can feed off of it, but you still have that central area. I think companies are trying to get there. This is kind of an example of that, but not fully. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think also the fact that, again, there's so many applications of AI across the manufacturing process that they've got to fix the data now, that you
Yeah.
can't do this without having that good quality data and complete data set. So that seems to me like a big driver here. So
I don't know how people haven't or companies have not got the memo that you need good data. And if
yeah,
you're not, even if you're not executing AI, and I think this is super important, you still need it.
you
Because
do. Yeah.
don't you want all your inventory control to be right? Don't you want your supply chain to have the appropriate information? Don't you want when you're producing materials to make sure you have the right product mixes together to produce certain batches or et cetera? I mean, don't you want the right information so your compliancy is correct? I mean, God forbid we should be moving something to Toronto from the United States, and how hard you guys are going to be on us.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Or
move
vice
anything to
versa.
Toronto, then you don't need any
Or vice
systems. I
versa.
mean, if you move to Toronto, then you don't need any systems. I mean, everything is going to work magically.
Just take it out of the taxes, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to Deltek. So Deltek, they're you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but they have a new they are an ERP company specializing in project management software for the government, defense, et cetera, aerospace, and they have their latest version of Costpoint was released, which they're saying is a major thing. And we'll have to go through this a little bit, but Sam, I think that some of the things that they improved were the UI. It's a modern UI. I don't know if anybody's taken a look at it. Embedded analytics, AI assisted project forecasting, which I think is a big deal. That gets your, that aligns your resources and then improve compliant workflows, excuse me. The challenge is also the same with is, I think, change management and customizations. I think that a lot of companies have on this or customers that have this product could run into some issues. Sam, what do you think? Do you know a little bit about them?
Yeah, I definitely do, and I think we have covered them, Deltek, Costpoint, a few times. I think Michael has some background in that, and last time he
Yeah, a
was
good
very
bit, actually.
descriptive, as far as I remember.
Is it in your book, Michael?
No, it is not. Although I have done a few episodes of my podcast with their chief product officer
Oh, great.
over the last few years, and actually they announced they announced this kind of on the roadmap probably 2 years ago now at one of their conferences. Um, they're a multi offering vendor, right? They have several different focuses. They focus on professional services with another ERP system. It's all project based ERP, but in this case, Costpoint has been a product that's been around for a very long time. And when they announced this probably 2 years ago, they had rolled out Della, which is their version of, at the time, generative AI assistance, but now it's graduated into the agentic world. And so they started reworking a lot of their applications and including the AI. And they did have some AI capabilities in Costpoint pretty much over the last year or so, I guess. But this is the significant one that they had, kind of hinted at for the last 2 years, that they would completely redo the UI. And that's it. If you want to say, we talk about long in the tooth for ERP systems. This was a long tooth because it is a very old system. But this UI is actually pretty nice looking, and the inclusion of agentic AI starts to give them the capability to automate a bunch of different tasks. And in this project-based world, there's a lot of time entry and resource management and resource allocation, that sort of thing, approvals, expenses, all those things. And so with the
Who are they
new
stacking
Ella
up?
agent,
Are they stacking up against like Appian and UiPath and Salesforce and ServiceNow?
no.
Who's a real
More NetSuite and Appian maybe on a peripheral, but they focused on the professional
SAP,
services side.
Workday.
Yeah, on the professional services side, NetSuite definitely, and Oracle to some extent too. SAP on the Costpoint side, they've been the predominant solution in that government contracting space in the U.S. for a while, and so it doesn't surprise me. In fact, I was a little surprised when I said, there were rumors about them sunsetting this one, because they're not going to sunset this. This is probably half their customer base on this product. So it was due for the upgrade. It took longer than the other products because it is older, but I think this is for their customers a significant release.
Great.
Yeah. So from my perspective, Robert, I guess Deltek is a very interesting case, and I think Michael has already highlighted a lot of that, right? So from my perspective, they were with Thoma Bravo before, if my understanding is right, from the private equity perspective. And generally, Thoma Bravo, when they acquire any company, they are known to put a lot of money in R&D. Really change the product direction. They are not just an average private equity, which is simply trying to consolidate, integrate, market, and just juice out the customer, I guess. 90% of the private equities are going to be that way, but Thoma Bravo is very different. They really know how to put money in R&D and how to capitalize that. So very long-term investor. So I was a little shocked, to be completely honest, when they spun off this one. I don't know why they sold. And surprisingly, who they sold to is a very interesting story as well, because they sold to Roper Technologies. And Roper Technologies, if you look at their portfolio, I knew them from my medical device world. That, okay, medical device, but what do you know about software, I guess? So it's a very different combination from the private equity perspective. Sorry, Michael, you have a comment.
Well, no, it's just the Roper piece. You have to understand the history of the whole acquisition. But they built a software division. They bought out several different. And actually, the guy who used to be the CEO at Deltek, and he left this past year, also ran the software division for Roper. So they had invested a lot of money in building out a software, division, I guess they should call it, right? So that Thoma Bravo invested a lot, but Roper's actually put a lot of money into them modernizing their products.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to agree with you, because I was thinking that, they are probably not going to invest as much in the product, but now I see things such as your Deltek Harmony. Now that's a very UI strategy, the way SAP had done, and I don't remember what was the name of SAP UI. They had given the brand for SAP US as well.
Yeah.
No, that's the UI. I don't remember the name of
I
that
can't
now.
think of it either.
Yeah, everybody has that. I mean, even Epicor has the name for their UI. Infor has name for, and it's all done after Fury is SAP. SAP is Fury. So Infor has that name as well, and I'm actually shocked that Deltek has done very similar. Now, my questions here are going to be, for example, let's say they are saying that I'm going to create AI agents for timesheet entry. Seriously, how is that going to work?
Automating time entry is not a particularly complicated process. I mean,
it's very complex from the change management perspective. The problem is, people inputting their time. You can automate that, but that's going to be meaningless.
How much? That doesn't sound like a big time saver. Like I find the stuff that moves the needle through procurement. And things that are just obnoxiously time consuming. But
it's an experience move, and that's why they talk about it. I mean, you're right, it's not the biggest thing they have in there, but the fact that you can go in and get a timesheet that as a consultant, get your timesheet already prepared for you based on your calendar and your activities, then you just go through and review it and send it on, and then the approvals also get automated, forwarded, that sort of thing. So it's kind of fancy automated workflow, I guess you might call it.
Okay.
I mean, it's useful, but it's certainly not the most important thing they did.
Yeah, since we have got Della introducing agents here into this product, Costpoint, I just wanted to bring it back up to that multi-agent orchestration trend, right? And we are seeing like this shift across different enterprise software vendors. Everyone's seeing it, right? Where it's no longer good enough to just give you the tools to go and manually complete the task. You have to offer to automate the thing for the customer. And even if it's like a small productivity gain, maybe some of these firms feel like they want to start with a quick win, something that everyone's a little bit more comfortable and definitely wants to automate, right? Like these small administrative tasks so we can get out of the way, and just some data, right? Showing like how eager enterprises are to adopt these agentic AI solutions. 41% of average IT departments plan to adopt agentic AI in 2026 or later. And if you're in that high maturity category, it's even more so, almost 80% there. We're looking to adopt by next year. So you can see why these vendors are rushing these solutions out.
Yeah. Do we have any questions, Sam?
Let me check. No, I don't think we have.
I don't see any.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can. Anything else on this subject, or should we continue?
Yeah, let's move to the next one unless anybody else has anything on that.
Okay.
No? Okay.
So Pipefy and Oracle announced a partnership. I think this is more about positioning, than a big story, because Oracle already has automation tools. So Pipefy, and correct me if my grammar, provides low-code automation and orchestration, but Oracle already has this. They already have OCI process automation and Fusion workflows, et cetera. But I believe, Oracle's automation doesn't really have the lighter weight, simplicity that Pipefy has. And so there is an overlap, but it's more of a business partnership where they have some things that Oracle could use for their customers, et cetera, from a lightweight standpoint, more of a mid-market appeal. What do you guys think? Am I on target a little bit, or thoughts?
I mean, Oracle's certainly done a lot with AI agents. I think last year at their conference, they rolled out like 100 new different agent workflows across all their applications, and they've been adding to that again. I think they renamed Open World, Cloud World. Now it's AI World, so they're serious about it, right? So, but I mean, this does seem like, I think you're right. It does seem more like a mid market, and the go to market piece. I mean, they're doing a joint go to market. There's probably some advantage to both there, but it didn't seem like big news from my perspective, to be honest.
Right. Brian, what do you think?
It was interesting to see a little bit of this language about finding a new go-to market for corporate AI projects. Like one of the main points in AI adoption for many enterprises has been to find the return on investment, right? So we went through this era of focusing on generative AI, and here's the LLMs, but it was really difficult for enterprises to take that and figure out how to get the value out of it, fit it into their processes in a way that was really about automation instead of just like personal productivity enhancement, right? So we got that far with like the co-pilots,
Mhm.
but now we're seeing the AI agents come to automate things and show us really how to squeeze more value out of AI with automation of tasks and processes. But this sort of like reference to a different go-to-market model is interesting to me, and they don't really specify exactly what that's going to be, but I wonder if they're giving a little head nod there to this sort of services software model, right? Where enterprises are looking to pay for outcomes from AI, not pay for utilization of AI, where I might be using AI but not getting any value out of it, right? I want to actually get the right outcome if I'm going to tap into this API and be paying for its use. I need to know that it's tied right into a process that I need completed. But again, they don't spell it out for us.
It'd be interesting to hear how they're going to do that, because Oracle's policy around charging for AI is they don't charge any uplift or extra for any of the agents or AI capabilities they built in. So that's kind of a twist when you add in a partner that does. So I don't. That'll be an interesting one. You're right about that.
Yeah, so guys, from my perspective, I guess I'm probably going to have slightly different take on this one.
You
And I
cannot
think,
do that to us, please.
sorry, what's in?
You can't do that to us. I'm joking.
On the story, so I was really surprised, to be completely honest. I mean, when I looked at this one, because we were looking at many different stories coming from Pipefy. I don't know whether you guys remember this or not. They were signing up partnership with pretty much everybody, most consulting companies in the market, Deloitte, Accenture. So Michael, to your comment, whether Pipefy is going to be more mid-market centric, if Deloitte is going after these guys and Accenture is going after these guys, and most likely, I mean, they are attacking very enterprise-centric market. That's my understanding of Pipefy. Now, Oracle and Pipefy alignment, again, completely shocking. I don't know why they would do that. My take on this is going to be that Pipefy, in general, has to be slightly more cloud agnostic, if I could use that term, from the cloud platform, from the infrastructure perspective. Pipefy is still a very platform as a service play, if I could use that term, in the AI world, I guess. I don't know if there is a parallel term they have coined for this. So you are going to have the AI infrastructure, you are going to have the platform-centric capabilities, and then you are going to have a real sassy version, which is different, right? I don't know, again, if there is a term for that, but most likely that is going to be agents, right? Your LLMs is probably going to be your infrastructure. So that's where I see Pipefy. Still, I'm not too sure about the story, but seems like they have some go-to-market strategy here. And it seems that, I mean, I think Pipefy is going to be in Oracle's ecosystem, and they are going to be selling together. Even though they might have parallel capabilities, Robert, but I think my Pipefy does have a play in Oracle's ecosystem.
But you're delineating it, and that's what I was actually saying, in a certain spot with that. And are you agreeing with that, or you think that's different?
I think they each have very different offerings, so I don't know if there is a real overlap. I don't know if Oracle has a similar tool as Pipefy in their portfolio, otherwise they would not sign this partnership. So here I think Oracle is seeing Pipefy is completely different, opening up newer markets. That's why they are going after this alignment.
Okay. Michael, comments on that?
No, I mean, it does seem like this may be more around OCI versus the rest of the application stack. But again, I'm not that familiar with Pipefy. So, but it is interesting, and I agree. They're going to have to deal with a lot of different agentic and other types of AI platforms. So, this could simply be another opportunity here to get a joint go-to-market together and go after some joint customers. So.
And this could also be an attack on Microsoft, I guess. I mean, I don't know if that is real or not, because Microsoft seems to be going after Salesforce. Salesforce is promoting a lot of agents. So now that would be more of the application strategy as opposed to platform or the infrastructure strategy. So here, Oracle might be saying that, hey, I'm not competing with my partners. You guys make money here. Pipefy, we haven't seen Pipefy plus Microsoft announcement. I don't know if that is coming, but Microsoft, the way they are approaching the market, they are saying that we are going to build these agents because Salesforce is doing so.
Yeah.
And that's a debate. Do you want the agents to be embedded and more organic or not? From those systems.
I mean, it sort of depends. It sort of depends, right? Because it depends on the process, and you're going to have to work cross-platform, right? So you're going to have agents on both sides, and that collaboration coordination's not that easy. But having embedded, I think overall ends up being the most useful way to drive adoption, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. And it kind of leads us to the next story with Sage Intacct in the AWS marketplace. And kind of how big of a deal is this with Sage? Now Intacct, which is an ERP solution for the mid-market, and pretty successful, Sam, I would think you would say, but now it's available on the AWS marketplace. And there's more tools available regarding AI agents, and should help the customers for procurement and integration with services like Bedrock, S3, Redshift, things of that nature. This is, I think, a good play. They have some strong competitors, obviously, with NetSuite, Acumatica, Microsoft Dynamics. I guess you could say QuickBooks, but this gives them already, which they have AI and ML tools, but more and better positioning. Thoughts? Is this a big deal or just a natural progression? I think it's kind of an important piece here.
I mean, it seems like a good opportunity for them to sell in the marketplace and their target market, SMB. Intacct's a good solution that Sage bought quite a while ago, and it's popular in the SMB world. And I would think that's a logical place to be available right on the marketplace. So that to me, that does seem like a positive from an exposure perspective, go-to-market kind of perspective.
What do you think, Brian?
Right. So what we're looking at here, right, is the release of a new category in the AWS marketplace, right? And I just want to let's explain everything going on here. So AWS marketplace, it simplifies your billing relationships when you're looking at procurement. So if you're a user of this marketplace and you want to procure something like Sage to help with your finance department, you can just add it on to your AWS bill by going through the marketplace to subscribe into it, right? So that's what's happening here is that AWS customers that tap into the marketplace, they don't have to manage multiple vendor relationships on their bill now. They can just simplify that billing, abstract away all that management aspect, and they know that Sage Intacct is going to be in fact running on their AWS infrastructure they're used to using. So it's helpful from an administration point of view, right? And then from the other point of view, if you're Sage, you're putting this sort of line of business oriented package onto AWS. Right now, who is buying things and procuring things through AWS? It's normally the IT team, right? So line of business oriented solutions is something that AWS wants to grow, and they want to foster that relationship across the enterprise. No doubt, everybody wants more of a buying commitment or a buying foothold in as many different departments as they can get, right? But when you look at how do enterprises do procurement, sometimes there's that centralized team that makes decisions about how they're going to procure things. They should have a centralized team. It should be a cross-functional team that includes IT, right? Gets them involved in what's the best way to integrate this solution into the infrastructure we're running. And maybe AWS marketplace is a nice way to do that, right? So we're not really counting on like people in the finance department just browsing through AWS marketplace and happening upon this to buy it, but it's sort of going to be, hey, we need a solution to do this. What's the best way to procure a solution like this? And now it's available and easier to add in.
Okay. What's your thoughts, Sam? I know this is a big topic for you, ERP, obviously. So, what does Gupta ERP think of it?
So Gupta ERP thinks that every ERP out there in the market they are done. So the only ERP exists now in the age of Gupta ERP is going to be Gupta ERP. So there's nobody else. But let's talk about these guys because we want to provide them coverage. I mean, we don't want to come across as monopolizing the market. So here, Sage Intacct is a very interesting story, and I don't know, Robert, whether you remember Unit 4 story. I guess we did either last week or a few weeks back. They had announced that they were available on Azure. So this is a very parallel, similar story. Whatever these guys are doing, but this one is crazier, and I'll tell you why. This one is crazier because if you look at the go-to-market strategy for Sage and Sage Intacct, the way they go to market is only through CPAs. In fact, they are going to say that Sage Intacct, why it is different? It's different because it's AI CPA certified. And generally their distribution channel is going to be through CPAs. Now, the assumption in that argument is that Sage argues that anybody who's buying an ERP should have a CPA license. Whether it should work that way or not, but that's how Sage is trying to position that, from the accounting, from the auditing perspective, ERP is a lot more than a technical product. So only people who are CPA holders must be buying, and that is aligned with their strategy. So obviously it's given that they would argue about that, right? But now all of a sudden you come back and you publish this on AWS. So what are we doing here? You changed your customer, you changed your go-to-market strategy. Now you are arguing that technical people should be buying the ERP product. I'm lost. I'm seriously.
I mean, I don't think it's not so much that like technical people should be buying this, right? Like we're not. I don't think the position is like, hey, IT should go and decide what the solution is that the finance department uses. But sometimes when you have a centralized procurement strategy or a team that's making decisions and IT's involved, they would say, oh, we've listened to your requirements. You need a solution like this, and it's available to us in this marketplace with this billing relationship that we already have, right? So sometimes we talk to each other in the enterprise and make decisions together. That's what listening to stakeholders is all about. And I think that's how you would arrive at a solution like this.
So, Brian, in this case, generally, AWS is not going to have much of a relevance in terms of the Sage Intacct acquisition. And the reason for that is because their billing is going to be completely different. So, for example, when you buy Sage Intacct, even if you are buying it on the AWS marketplace, you are still signing the contract with your, Sage Intacct vendor, and you are not necessarily signing with AWS directly. So, even if it is...
That's what it means to be in the marketplace, though. You're wrapping your billing relationship under that banner. Yeah. So you're not dealing with the Sage vendor relationship. You don't have to have a contract with them. That's the whole point.
So are we talking about this is going to be a private cloud? Because this is not private cloud. Sage Intacct was always public cloud.
It would be running on AWS.
Right. Yeah, I understand, but you are paying to Sage and you are signing the contract with Sage.
Well, indirectly, though.
It raises Intacct's visibility among AWS buyers. That's what it helps that. I think, Sam, you are right. Because you're looking at the skinny version, like, how does this help me with my business? And you're saying it doesn't really do a lot.
Well, unless you need their finance solution, right? Like it's not a huge announcement, right? Sage Intacct saying, "Hey, we're available in one more place. You want to buy us this way? We're available. You want to bill us? You want a billing relationship that looks like this? We can do. We are available and there for you." So I'm sure that everybody that was featured in this new AWS market category, agentic AI and tools, has a press release out just like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. True. All right. Well, we got another ERP to talk about here with NetSuite. So it's Intacct. It's Sage's buddies. They're pretty competitive, and but anyway, they are releasing some text enhanced translation capabilities, multilingual. I'm assuming this is important. It's a challenge with I think some of these systems to make translations correctly, specifically when you get to legal documents and stuff like that. But there's benefits with invoices and purchase orders and other internal documents and messaging, and it could cut down with manual translation, which I'm assuming that's a big deal. I'm not sure. I have to get some stats on the accuracy of this stuff, but sounds like a positive incremental, step, not really transformative, but it's a help for operational pain points that these global firms have. What do we all think?
It would be helpful.
I mean,
The proof point for this is just like, how well does it really work, right? Because it sounds great, and we know this is a problem with you can't just apply like the generic translation algorithm to this sort of business jargon laden forms that you would have in NetSuite, right? So it sounds like a good solution, and what they're promising is appealing, right? And if it really helps with that, but the proof's in the pudding. Like how you're not going to really know the performance until you start testing it.
Yeah, one of the issues with translate tools that are kind of disconnected is you're using them to do the translation, but you don't have the context around what you're trying to do. And in this case, they're saying they've actually connect that to the context, the workflow, the data, because it's you're collaborating. So it's not translating just documents, but it's translating interactions across teams and boundaries. So if that's the case, that could be very useful from a collaboration standpoint.
Sure.
In a multinational, global company that has to deal with that kind of thing regularly. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting from the idea of translation and context.
Yeah. Sam, I think it's positive, but what do you think? Just another step for something that was needed?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Brian and Michael on this one. To be completely honest, translation was always broken. It didn't work as expected. It was really clunky. In fact, I mean, when you look at the actual localization, for example, if you are going to have an ERP product written in Germany, you are probably going to have a lot of German flavor in terms of the translation when you talk about currency translation. If an ERP software is written in, I don't know, South Africa or India or wherever, you are going to have flavors of that, and that does impact the workflow of the people maintaining the product as well as using. So now, and again, this is very limited scope what they are able to do here. They are simply talking about just translating the vendor invoice, the customer support response, as well as the job description. So it's not the full-fledged translation, but hopefully the AI models can be there. I don't know. I mean, AI is pretty bad right now, to be completely honest. It does not understand SAP S/4HANA when I translate. It always struggles with, the acronyms, the industry terms. It's okay, I would say, but it's not the best so far, at least. Hopefully that changes.
So I used to work for a global firm in France, and I would tell you that translation was a big deal because we had 100,000 employees. We had every region in the world. And so the translation, not necessarily an ERP system, but just working. And the translation, I remember spending a lot of time on that, where we had to just have different documents set for different regions. And it's a big play. So having this in ERP is a necessity.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the localization, globalization piece for the product. It's actually the interacting once you're using the product across all those different language barriers. And to me, that does seem like it's a positive. And sure, generative AI translate, it has various degrees of goodness, but it is getting much better. And having that context and data around it would certainly seem like it could improve your ability to collaborate across some activity in the system.
Yeah. Sam, anything you want to close out with here?
No, I think we can go to the next one if you guys want. I mean, this is a very small story. I guess it does not have much meat. So I don't know how much time you're going to spend on that.
Oh, it's another vendor with, guess what? Agentic AI.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Rootstock software announces summer 25 release. I believe they just have some AI updates. Sam, you're probably more familiar with them, but they've released some agents for manufacturing. Was this built? Can you kind of talk about how it was natively built on Salesforce? Is that correct?
They must be using Salesforce, right? Because they're a Salesforce platform vendor. Yeah.
So I'm not sure on the Sam. I haven't really come across them too much, but how is their architecture compared to some of the competitors, like NetSuite or Acumatica and stuff like that. But this new release, what does it do for them? Let's talk
Yeah,
about that.
so they started as Rootstock. Rootstock started as Salesforce ISV, I guess, if you really want to position them in the right bucket, right? So even today, I mean, they are sort of the ISV, but I mean, Rootstock is a fairly strong brand now. So even though it uses Salesforce platform, but that does not mean that they don't have their own identity. The reason why you have not come across them as often, Robert, is because they still have very small footprint. I would say it's just not as much as other brands such as your.
Who are their demographics? Like, would you say like a small and medium-sized manufacturer that doesn't have a lot of employees, or a larger system of employees and they're more in bed with Salesforce? I mean, does Salesforce play a role in the buying?
It does substantial role, I would say. And, even today, if you look at the Salesforce and ERP collaboration, that is not as natural, to be completely honest, at least in some industries, okay, where you are going to have very thick sales and marketing workflows, and then you are trying to sort of collaborate with your ERP workflows. That's never easy, especially in things such as your regulated spaces, medical device. They need to be far more connected, interconnected, overall from the regulated workflows perspective. So overall, I guess Rootstock, in terms of their demographics, obviously it is SMB, but they have some capabilities which are much larger, I would say, and they have some very large logos as well. Even though their footprint is small, but their capabilities are different. It's a very different architecture. So one of the advantages that they are going to have, and they are getting already there, right? They are getting all of the R&D of Salesforce, which is a big deal. Especially if you talk about these AI agents, AI, platform capabilities. A lot of other vendors, they have to develop those things from scratch, unless they are using somebody else's capabilities. So, for example, let's talk about Info Rapidcore. Now, they are probably going to take a long time because they have to develop all of these things from scratch. In their case, they are getting all of this from Salesforce, so they are going to be slightly ahead, I would say. The workflows that they are talking about in this particular release are far more meaningful, I would say, from the AI agent perspective than talking about timesheet entry, where you are going to have real change management issues. Here, you might have a little bit, but not as much, I would say. So I like these use cases a little bit more. And then they have some other basic capabilities as well. For example, 13th period support, which is not AI, but it's AI for finance, because you need those. If you don't have those in certain industries, you are probably going to have a lot of problems.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, Rootstock's interesting. I've known them for quite a long time, and they started really more focused around the older sort of MRP world and mid market, but they've certainly expanded a lot over the years, and having the capability, because they're built on the Salesforce platform, having the ability to expose all those different Flex and the workflows and Agentforce, all those different capabilities, has definitely given them the ability to innovate more quickly across certain types of activities, particularly around agentic. So from that perspective, I mean, they are interesting. They've been on App Exchange for a very long time, actually.
You guys sound pretty positive on this, and you're definitely more familiar with this vendor and its capabilities than I am. But like, just looking at this from their perspective of the language and like the way they're talking about this agent, it feels like to me it was something that should have been released 18 months ago, right? And when I say that, I just mean that they're talking about, like, you notice the difference between this, an ERP agent, as opposed to agentic AI, right? Where like earlier in the show, we were talking about promises to automate your process for you. And that's not what's being promised in this press release here, right? They have an ERP agent that's going to summarize things for me, help me view things, search for things, right? This is just like, okay, I'm using generative AI to like organize, to have a chatbot and do some text, which is good. But it's like, to me, like, where's the automation of my tasks, my process, is so I don't even have to talk to the bot, right?
Well, I mean, 18 months ago, Agentforce didn't exist, so they couldn't have done this without having that connection
So
to
Agentforce. Going to be
Agentforce.
in 18 months ago. Yeah, fair.
Yeah. So to be honest, but I mean, if they're using Agentforce, which clearly they are, then that does open up a lot of other activities and automation that they can do. Whether they're there yet now, it's hard to tell from this press release.
But
Right.
Michael, overall, from the capabilities perspective, I don't know if there are any other vendors who are going to be as ahead as Salesforce. Maybe Microsoft, but I mean, I don't know. So yeah, Salesforce is probably the most ahead, I would say, in the agentic game.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, them and Oracle actually has quietly made more progress there too. But yeah, I would say Salesforce is probably the lead there right now.
Yeah. What do you think, Sam? We want to go through this next one real quick?
We can do one more. I mean, we are covering a lot more stories, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
We are moving quicker as opposed to sticking on one. So I really like that.
I like this next story with Versori. I guess that's how you say it, with the partnership with SYSPRO. So SYSPRO's we're really hitting all spectrums of all the different ERP vendors today. So their ERP manufacturing distribution. And this is more of a data integration play to, Versori's data integration to really help with. We talked about data at the beginning of the show, how important it is. So the data flows across the ERPs and the supply chain. So this should help with really the customers and new suppliers and cleaner ERP to ERP data or integrations with other systems like CRMs. This solves some of the challenges that they might have, and I guess this helps. It's not going to be a expensive proposition, I would not think, for customers. So there's competitors, obviously, that like an Informatica with SnapLogic, Boomi, MuleSoft. So they already have basic tools for this, but not as advanced as this with AI connectors. So I think Versori brings something new to SYSPRO. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think it's kind of a good indication that, after the acquisition, there's investment in what SYSPRO's doing. They were around for a very long time, an old South African company that, had a strong U.S. presence in the mid-market, a big Epicor competitor. And then when they were purchased a few years ago, there was always that question of, well, is this a maintenance stream play or is it an investment play? And it seems like they're getting investment. They've made some acquisitions, and so from that standpoint, that does seem like for their customer base a popular and good outcome.
Okay, Brian, what do you think?
I don't have much to say on this. I'm not familiar with these vendors as much. It looks like they're announcing activities that you want to hear about. Every vendor has to convince you that they're going to be bringing you AI integrations and features these days, right? So that's what I'm seeing out of this. But again, not too familiar with like the client base that these vendors would be serving.
Gotcha. Sam?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I guess, I mean, this is a very interesting story, and I think other vendors have to catch up with this particular story because this is the AI-driven integration platform, which means that the whole iPaaS category is probably going to change. I don't know what is going to happen to them. Okay, one of the differentiators, if you look at products such as NetSuite, Acumatica, they had is through their ecosystem and integration. Now, if SYSPRO and NetSuite took, I don't know, maybe 20 years to get there. Now, if SYSPRO can do this in 20 days, I mean, that's a big deal, right? And that's where I see the real potential and value. And a lot of these vendors have struggled a lot. And SYSPRO is sort of in between. Sometimes the vendors are sort of purpose-built. For example, let's say if you analyze Infor, Epicor, etc., they don't necessarily talk with every third-party vendor because they want to sell their own software. SYSPRO was sort of in between. They had the partner strategy, but they also had the vertical strategy. So I don't know what they wanted, but now I think there is a clarity, after this private equity acquisition, that they are building their ecosystem and they want to be like probably NetSuite or Acumatica.
Well, also just to mention, so IBM bought a couple components from Software AG around iPaaS, which is stream sets and web methods, about a year ago, which is exactly this data integration. So I think it's a big topic as we go forward, especially when we talk about the new ERP, the next generation ERP. This has to be in place.
So, Robert, on that comment, I guess the IBM's strategy is going to be slightly different, I would say.
I was just mentioning that the data integration is it's a topic, not a comparison to this.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Robert. The idea that if you have AI, you need data, need good data, need consolidated, good quality data. So
Yeah, it has nothing to do necessarily SYSPRO in this, but it's more or less that there's movement in this area, and IBM spent $1 billion for that, so they see this data integration as a high priority. That's all.
Yeah, but generally IBM or ACL, whenever they buy these products, they are looking for the consulting play for the most part, and they are buying slightly more legacy technology purposely because they want to make those dollars, right? They are not necessarily buying the newest AI-driven integration platforms because they don't want to be product company, as far as my understanding goes. They tried that, but I mean, IBM, as if you look at their identity, I think they want to be known as more of the consulting company. I think that's how they make money.
Well, they bought that data integration as a tool to help out customers, SAP customers or Oracle customers, etc., because that is a big problem. And I'm just mentioning as a comparison, SYSPRO sees the same thing.
So just to learn more about this, when SYSPRO and their partner here, Versori, are talking about AI-driven integrations and planning to they're planning to deliver 25 pre-built production-ready integrations. So what is that? Is that like the model context protocol server that connects to all of these different systems that they're listing?
Well, I mean, in some context could be MCP, but I think it's more old line, but with some AI automation integration, right? Because SYSPRO goes into a manufacturer and they've got to integrate with their MES and CRM, all these other platforms and companies that they run across. So to me, that seems like it's more focused around just old school integration, but with some automation thrown in.
Right, and you can old school integration can be standardized enough that you have 25 pre-built that people can just plug and play in their enterprise systems. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So that does help from the deal closing perspective. That's why it matters for these enterprise software vendors, because if you are going to have pre-baked integration, now whether that is going to work or not is always a question, right? But customers can be lured. Let's just put it this way.
Well, let's close out. So I think this was a really good show. We focused a lot on ERP, and why don't we kind of go around the horn, starting with Brian? Where do you see the biggest impact an AI agent can make in an ERP system?
Oh, I don't know. We did a survey recently, I'll bring it back to like what goals are organizations pursuing with AI. And right now, the focus is mostly on driving efficiency and optimization, right? Which is where I think most customers are sort of comfortable to start in terms of we're not ready to like overhaul our entire process around AI and like try and chase new revenue growth with it yet. But let's start with what we know how to do, and we'll just optimize that and get the advantage out of it. So it'll be more interesting to me once we start seeing these vendors come up with ways for their customers like to expand and grow their business, not just like get better at what you're already doing. But I think that's a progression.
Okay, Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think from an ERP perspective, there's a lot of opportunity there. We've kind of been focused, and if we just took 2 surveys out of the field in June, and the focus for a lot of companies has been customer service, software development, and then you get down into more of the operations kind of thing from an agentic perspective, particularly. But your core processes, the more you can automate in the what we call back office for years, I guess, that's valuable, and it certainly does create real ROI in the back end if you can automate some of those processes and improve them. So I can see that. I mean, just focusing on the front end and the customers, obviously there's value there, but I think coming along and focusing around some of that back end automation is going to be really important for companies to get all the value they can get out of agentic.
That was well said. I'll give my feedback, and then Sam, you can close us out with your feedback. But I think it's in several areas, specifically one procurement, another one inventory control, where instead of your just in time or manual, you're getting it based upon customer demand and cross sell and predictions, etc. I think it's a big deal. Taking that information and moving it along to the supply chain and forecasting based upon issues with tariffs or weather or suppliers. So I think that it is a major component throughout companies that will lead to even what Brian said with efficiencies and what you said also, Michael. But I think it's a necessary thing. Swinging all the way back to our first 5 minutes where you get the data, none of it will work unless the data is set up correctly. That's why it's important to get your data in order. So when these advanced technologies are in play, you're there.
Yeah, amazing, guys. So from my perspective, Andy, first of all, thank you so much for joining. I know that you have a comment, but we might not be able to squeeze that in because we are trying to be slightly disciplined here and trying to close on time. So hopefully maybe next time. But, from the AI perspective, Robert, I always say this, that AI is definitely very powerful. And I like to see is that, it's going to be probably scary times because if you can do all of these integrations in 25 days, some people are arguing that they can develop these products in 25 days, then what is left? And, how are you going to justify your bills, I guess, as the consulting company as well as the software company? So there's going to be a lot to think about, how the industry is going to evolve. But overall, these are very interesting times. On that note, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. This was Analysts Gone Wild. We meet every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Yep.